Hello, I'm Todd Phillips, the editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. We're here today with Bruce Rosen. Bruce is the Executive Director of Industry Relations with the Canadian Automobile Dealer Association. Bruce, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Todd.
Well, today we're going to dive into a new study that CADA is just embarking on, and it's really trying to look at the relationship between dealers and the complex tech stack and software platforms they're using to run their operations. And there's never really been a study like this in Canada, and we're curious to learn more about it. So, Bruce, tell us first of all why CADA decided to study this area.
Uh, it's a great question. I hope I can answer it clearly enough. I think that as part of CADA's three pillars, one of the pillars is knowledge, and the more knowledge that we can impart, which is part of the reason I was brought on board, is to investigate areas where we can help folks to benefit from what is out there. Probably one of the most confusing elements of the retail business today in automotive is tech. We hear all about tech. There's tech in cars, there's tech in diagnostic equipment, there's tech in dealer management systems, et cetera, et cetera. The question that we had was how much tech is there? And depending on how much there is it integrated? And if it's integrated, who's managing it? And those are pretty big balls to juggle if one would be doing so. But this was something, and I remember going through the survey, and one of the questions that stuck out to me that we had in the original request for information was how many tech elements do you use in your day-to-day business? And I remember it clearly because the answer went up to 20 or more. And I was flabbergasted, and I knew there was a problem. So we're definitely going down the right track on a tech study.
Okay, and in terms of the sort of the nuts and bolts of what's next, because the study's about to be rolled out. So, what can dealers expect? What should they be on the lookout for? And really, what is it you need them um, to do? And in effect, the dealers are the ones that will be providing the information about what's going on in their universe within their dealership. So, what is it you're asking them to do?
Well, what we want to do first is establish what we're trying to do. So we've created a preliminary survey to keep things narrow and focused. And additionally, that first series of questions is to establish who in a dealership is responsible for which tech. And sometimes we put surveys out to some people who maybe aren't the most relevant, and therefore the answers maybe not the most accurate. So the first question determines who is it in your dealership who looks after various elements of tech. If it's you, great. If it's not, please introduce us to him or her and make sure that we get the answers we need, because the more answers we get, the better the value of the study is, and the more accurate it will be for dealers to really embrace it.
Yeah, I guess really within a dealership, you might have somebody who's looking after, the DMS. There's the CRM that might be more on the sales side. You've got service, retention related software. You've got digital marketing, digital
Yeah.
retailing tools. You go down the list, chat. There's so much stuff out there. AI we'll talk about in a minute. So there's definitely this overwhelming amount of software and tech. And I guess my understanding is that the study is really to try to diagnose on behalf of dealers, have them chime in what's working for them, which of this tech has given them value, even at the vendor level, which ones, are good to deal with in that sense. So you're really trying to get a sense of what's that landscape like across Canada, right?
Yeah, and let's be clear. First, we need to thank RBC for stepping up. They really also enjoyed the topic that we were raising, and since they're involved with many of our dealers, they thought, "Ooh, what an interesting way to be involved and support a very good initiative." So thank you RBC for stepping up and understanding that there was a need. I think that they're just there's too much tech. All right. And you just listed just a few of them, but there's so much more. And we are not about trying to determine vendors. That is not the course of this study. The study is absolutely impartial. We are absolutely unbiased, and we are just looking at tech in a general sense of what tech is, what is offered and available to dealers, how is it being used, can it be used better, is there a way to find ways to integrate tech better? And can we optimize personnel, which is, as we know, in dealerships, one of those big issues these days. And our Road Ahead study identifies it as a future issue. So how do we make it all work?
Okay, guess as a point of clarification, it's not going to be any kind of a ranking or popularity contest for vendors, but it's going to, I guess, explore the landscape, whether it's DMS or CRM, their experiences, with these various platforms. So when it's all said and done, and the study goes out, initially the first wave is to reach out to dealers and make sure the survey ends up in the right hands. It's either a chief technology officer or someone looks after marketing or whatever it might be. Then once you get that, you roll out the survey, you get the feedback from dealers. How in the end are dealers going to benefit from the study? Are you going to prepare a final report? Participating dealers get a copy. What's the next step at the end of it once you've got all the data?
Yeah, but dividing it in two different ways is going to help people get the best information out of what goes into the study. So one is we're finding the right people who are looking after certain elements of the dealership. The other is we're also identifying the tech. So by doing that, we know, and it's a bit more difficult to do this because it's not something we've done before. Now we're going to have multiple different surveys on different tech to different people in the dealership. So we're really digging deep on this one to try and get it as accurate as possible so that we can provide the insights that dealers need, not just today, but in the next 5 years as tech continues to change, and certainly in the next 10 years where it'll change one more time.
Well, it's certainly something I experience at times when I go to NADA and I walk around the pavilion, as I do sometimes the Canadian dealers, and you look at the array of technology software platforms and new ones emerging all the time. It's absolutely overwhelming just to keep track of it all, keep sense of, what's important. And of course, dealers don't want to miss out on, the latest, greatest thing to give them a differentiated retail experience so they can understand their quest to constantly pursue tech and add new elements in, but it can be a bit overwhelming. And one of the ones I just want to touch on briefly is AI. There's a lot of buzz about AI in all industries, not just auto retail, but it's starting to make its inroads in through the various software providers are building it into their AI, even at the level of financing and F&I products as well. So is that going to be part of it? You're going to try to get a sense of the early days of AI and dealer experience?
Yeah, we need to. This again was identified in our Road Ahead study, the first part of it. And clearly everybody's aware AI is there. About one third of the dealers uh, think they have I won't say their heads wrapped around it, but they're engaged in it. But the vast majority of dealers said that they weren't ready for it. They maybe don't have the right people for it and are not sure of how much investment to make in it. Right? There's a lot of great tech out there. You touched on the fact that you're overwhelmed. I can imagine we're not in it day to day. We're related to the business, but on a dealership floor or dealership facility, imagine how much they have to contend with. So we need to sort through this so that we can help dealers make the right decisions, maybe go back to their OEMs and ask for something that they might need, and make sure that they're investing for which they're investing a lot of money already. I'm not sure I could even answer if the investments are the right investments at the right place at the right time with the right vendor for the right output. I have no idea.
Well, actually, one thing that's important, maybe the last point is if you could do, I know this is very important to CAD in the industry, and you really need the dealers to step up and fill it out. If you could do one last pep talk or call to action to them, because they're going to get this information directly from CADA, and I guess the purpose of this interview is to really help them be aware when this arrives. We really need you to act on this on our behalf. So maybe if you got a bit of a message out there to the dealers about the value it's going to deliver to them at the end of the day.
Well, if I use AI in another sense, that it will be always informative. Uh, we are embarking on reports that provide a great deal of information that dealers can take, not all, but maybe in part, and use in their day-to-day operations, especially as the business becomes very complicated. And dealers who are great at pivoting need pivot points. And the more information we get, the more accurate the information we get from as many dealers who are asked to complete the survey as possible, then the more we can do with it. But more importantly, I think is it's the more the dealers can do with it. So we will slice it and dice it and come up with findings that we hope, in fact, let me rephrase that, we know will be beneficial to the dealers. So the more the merrier, the accuracy improves, the outputs improve, and the information overall is just more robust.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. So to dealers, keep an eye out for information or correspondence from CADA in your inbox and through communication channels from the association. And step up and fill out the survey, and let's find out what dealers are doing with their tech out there. Bruce, thanks for joining us today.
Todd, it's great. Thanks for having me.